Hi guys, it's Mrs. Linfors. We're on day 2 of our virtual learning and we're going to do another review lesson. This time it's going to be how to multiply fractions times another fraction and multiplying mixed numbers. You've done this before, so don't panic. You should be able to remember once I pull up my whiteboard and give you a couple examples. Let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so we're going to practice doing a few samples together. Then I'll give you some problems to do on your own and turn in for your assignment. Again, if you're really lost and you just don't remember how to do this, you can meet myself at my office hours today at 4 to 4:30 or even tomorrow 9 to 9:30. I forgot today. Sorry about that. I now have an alarm set, so I won't forget the office hours again. Let's start with our first sample question. I have 7/8 times 1/2. Our first step is to kind of look at it and see, is there any way that we can reduce this? I'll give you a hint. This time there isn't. So we're just going to do our multiplying straight across. Numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. 7 times 1 equals 7. 8 times 2 equals 16. Our final answer is 7/16. Now, let's try one that's a little harder. We're going to do 2/5 times 1/12 equals. This time we can reduce before we start to multiply. It's a lot easier to work with smaller numbers, so we're going to practice that reducing before we multiply. In my class, we had a saying, before you multiply, reduce with a butterfly, which means we kind of circled our numbers like so. Now we have 2/12 and 1/5. 1/5 is as reduced as it can get, but 2/12, 2 and 12 have common factors. The common factor is, you got it, 2. 2 divided by 2 becomes a 1, and 12 divided by 2 becomes a 6. We now can rewrite it as 1/5 times 1/6. If we go to our next step again, which is multiply the numerators and then multiply the denominators, we have 1 times 1 equals 1, and 5 times 6 equals 30. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy? If it's not, it's okay. Just keep practicing. If you need to watch the video a couple times to learn how to do this, no big deal. You can pause me, rewind me, do it over and over as many times as it takes. Now, let's get to those mixed numbers. I'm going to give you first a mixed number times a whole number. Let's see if you remember these steps. The first problem is going to be 2 3/4 times 8 equals. I'm going to write the steps down up here because I think they're really important. Step 1. The first thing you want to do is convert your numbers into just plain old fractions. So convert mixed number and whole number into a fraction. As you can see, Mrs. Linfors is getting used to writing on this screen. All right, so 2 3/4. If we were going to change that into a fraction, we would multiply 4 times 2, which equals 8, plus 3 more, 9, 10, 11. So we now have 11/4 times a whole number turned to a fraction is really that whole number over 1. We now have 2 fractions. So step 2. Before you multiply, reduce by butterfly. So step 2 is plainly reduce. We can cross, make our butterfly. We know that 11 and 1 don't have a common factor that can reduce it, but 8 and 4, they have a common factor of 4 being the greatest common factor. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. We now have a fraction that we can rewrite. 11 over 1 times 2 over 1. Step 3, multiply. We're multiplying across our numerators and across with our denominators. So 11 times 2 equals 22, and 1 times 1 equals 1. Step 4, simplify. That just means rewrite this fraction, for this case, as a whole number. 22 over 1 equals an answer of just 22. I'm going to do another example for you that is 2 mixed numbers. I'm going to clear our board here. So we have clean space. And we are now going to multiply 4 and 1/2 times 1 and 1/4. If you remember, step 1. I'm not sure why this is running all around, so we're going to write it backwards. Step 1. Rewrite as a fraction. Rewrite problem as a fraction. So if we're going to turn 4 and 1/2 into a fraction, 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 more is 9, over 2, times 1 times 4 is 4, plus 1 more is 5, over 4. We now have 9/2 and 5/4. If you look at the circle that we would make with a butterfly, you see that these numbers do not have common factors. So we can't reduce ahead of time, but that's all right. So our next step for this problem will be multiply. You're going to multiply straight across. 9 times 5 is 45. 2 times 4 is 8. Right now, we have an improper fraction. We need to turn it into a mixed number for our final answer. So step 3, again, is going to be simplify. So 45 over 8, we discussed yesterday. Remember, this line really means to just divide. So if we rewrite it so it's easier for us to figure it out like this, 45 divided by 8, we know that 8 can go into 45 5 times. 5 times 8 equals 40. Subtract, and we have a remainder of 5. Again, remember, the number up here, that is our whole number. This number down here, that is the numerator. And this number right there is our denominator. So that gives us a final answer of 5, numerator, and 5, denominator, 8. I think you guys can do this on your own. But again, if you need extra help, watch the video a couple times. There will be some assignments now for you to figure out. I know you can do it. And if you need a piece of paper on the side, go ahead and figure it out on paper, and then just put your final answer in the Google Doc. Send it to us when you're done, and you'll be all set. Have a great day, guys.